Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Author Jeff Van Every has written a heartfelt memoir of resilience, loss, and the enduring power of faith. The book is titled Hope Beyond Heartache, A Journey Forward. Jeff is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We get to talk all about the book. Jeff, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
No, thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Jeff, can you tell me all about what you've written in Hope Beyond Heartache?
Well, it was me trying to describe the events in my life and what it did to me. But in the end, what I wanted to do was let other people know who also face tragedy in their life that it is possible to come through that tragedy and still live a meaningful life, even though there are times when it feels like that's not possible.
Jeff, what sort of a readership were you thinking about when you were writing it?
I was thinking about people who have lost someone in their life, a dear loved one, I've lost a son, and then I lost my wife 19 months later. So it's trying to understand how can we keep moving forward with all this loss piled on top of us,
So what was your inspiration to start the book?
Well, I'd written a book previously, and I'm a two-time cancer survivor, so I wrote a book about that and chronicled my journey through that. And then what I wanted to do was say, okay, this is what happens after. I wanted to also chronicle what happens to you. I mean, you think everything's great now. I survived cancer twice. Things are looking real good, but then life might have another chapter that you're not ready for. At that point, it's like, okay, wow. Why do I have to deal with this now? But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope. Your life is still here, right? I didn't lose my life, but I only have one life to live, so I have to pick myself up and decide, am I going to live it or am I just going to give up?
So once you started writing this, was this a long journey overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
It didn't take too long, probably a year and a half, 2 years, yeah. And it probably went a little bit quicker the second book because I'd already done it once with the first book, which took me a lot longer to write because that covers about 25 years worth of my life. This book here covers about 4, so it didn't take quite as long to put it together. I think I started on the second book while I was still writing the first book. I would get a thought in my head, and then I would just write those thoughts down and then put them to the side and kind of came back at it later when I had an idea of what I wanted to try and convey to the readers.
So once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, Jeff, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing end of things for you?
Well, just trying to put my thoughts in order. Trying to come up with something that flowed and that made sense and that kind of went from one subject to the next because I touch on many different aspects of life after losing a loved one. It's not just the initial shock, it's what happens later and trying to cope with a new life, your new world, which has changed. It's not the same anymore. It's still your life, but it's somewhat different.
I could only imagine what's going through your head whenever you get that first copy in, after all that time and work you put into it. What's that moment like for you, Jeff?
It's fulfilling. It felt good. But it was like, okay, that was work, and it helps me get through what I'm feeling. I used it. I didn't sit down I didn't have to have a therapist or anything like that, but what I did was I allowed the writing to let me express my feelings and then went from there. That way, I just felt like it helped me relieve some of my anxiety and some of my pain.
So you have a couple books out there. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
It's nice to know that I was able to complete it. I've started the one book many years ago, and when I finally finished it, that felt really good because it was, like I said, 25 years in the making. Then the second book, like I said, I started some of that stuff early on, and then when I threw that all together and started putting a little more time in that, it came together much quicker. And that also was very rewarding in the fact that I was able to hopefully help someone else who might be going through something similar to what I've gone through, I guess.
What a great message this book has. Again, it's titled Hope Beyond Heartache, A Journey Forward. It's written by Jeff Van Every and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So pick it up at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Jeff, it has been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks, Corey. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Author Kathleen Allen has written an inspiring exploration of Christ's love and presence in our daily lives. The name of the book is Did You Know? And I'm very happy to have Kathleen right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Kathleen, welcome. Thank you for joining me here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kathleen, can you tell me all about what you've written and Did You Know?
My desire for my book is to help people know Christ is real. He lives and can be found in our daily lives, in things important to us. Because of his love for us, they are important to him. And he will magnify our talents. We need to ask him into our lives, invite him in, and you need to talk to him as you would a friend and pour out your heart to him. Make it personal. Then let him become your best friend. He is our Savior, and he did suffer and bleed and died for us. And just a few things that I'd like to point out. Adversity is acting in contrary direction of the gospel, and he was tempted by Satan to do this. Anguish, extreme pain or distress of mind, and we know that he had that through his life. And chastising. In Gethsemane, he took our chastisement upon himself that should have been ours from God the Father. Despair, utter destruction of hope. On the cross, he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Distress, desperate need, and misery, suffering, and want caused by poverty. We know that he lived in poverty. And mocking, insulting character of imitation, not real or genuine. The scribes and Pharisees accused him of blasphemy, and pain, damaging or harmful. We know that our Savior had a lot of pain. Persecution, harass, torture. The soldiers did that to him. And tribulation, suffering from oppression, a trying experience, people rejecting him. And trouble, to feel or cause to feel mentally or spiritually agitated by those who persecuted, by non-believers. And lastly of all, why did he suffer? So we would not have to go through these things alone. And he took Heavenly Father's anger upon himself on our behalf to gain victory over the death and make intercession for the children of men.
So Kathleen, what sorts of readers you think would get the most out of this?
I really believe those that love poetry, because I've written poems in the book, but I also put direct scripture verses in there to show how the poems go. Like, for instance, I have one with water and stuff, and it shows that even nature denotes that there is a God. So I think those that would love poetry would get a lot out of it. And those that are looking just for a simple read, a comforting read, because the book isn't that big. You can sit down and read it in just a matter of maybe 20, 25 minutes or so. So those that are looking for just kind of a comfort thing to read, and those that would love poetry, and hopefully others would be curious to investigate and see what it's all about.
So how did this all come about, Kathleen? What inspired you to write this?
Oh gosh, it took me almost 2 years to write it. One thing I wanted to do in writing the book is to show that I used the talents that the Lord gave me for poetry and my love for writing. That's actually what started it. I wanted to express that, and I wanted to praise the Lord and show the world that he is so real, and he helps us, and he does protect us.
So looking ahead, what are the chances that we're going to see some more from you?
I have a book in mind. It hasn't been started yet, but this is kind of did you know in actually kind of finding Christ in your life. And the next one is, now that you found a friend, what are you going to do with him?
Again, the title of this book is Did You Know? It's written by Kathleen Allen and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Kathleen, it was wonderful talking with you tonight and learning all about Did You Know? Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me speak. You have a wonderful night.
Albert G. Thayer's new book is a fascinating read that explores German traditions for celebrating Christmas. It's titled Christmas for a Fish Out of Water. Albert is sitting here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We get to talk all about it. Albert, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good to be here.
Albert, can you tell me all about what you've written in Christmas for a Fish Out of Water?
Yes, I've written about various customs. The reason I came up with the title, A Fish Out of Water, when I first moved from New England to Texas, I was told I'd feel like a fish out of water. And then when I moved to Germany after having gone into the Army, there's even more a case of that. And if you go to Germany from the United States, you'll soon learn we don't have the same holidays. They don't celebrate Halloween. They don't do Thanksgiving. And Christmas is, shall we say, a different ball of wax. They do celebrate it, but it's quite a bit different. To make the person feel totally confused. So I started writing things, and I didn't write it all at once. In fact, most of the parts of the book, it's 4 parts, were written to go into my Christmas cards. I wrote part on Black Eyed Peas in Texas, because that's part of being a fish out of water, even if it's not Germany. I wrote about the legend of Silent Night, how it came to be written. And of course, that's just across the border from Germany and Austria. And then I'd written one of the main things for my Christmas cards over the years, entitled The Three Christmases of Bavaria. And it explains about St. Nicholas Day, about the Christmas celebration, which is different. And St. Nicholas Day is on December 6th. Santa Claus doesn't come on Christmas Eve. And I wrote for the thing almost 2 weeks later, which is Three Kings Day. And individuals from the church choir dress up like three kings and go about town. So I did all this to get the idea together of the differences between an American Christmas and a German Christmas.
Albert, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
Well, I think the publisher decided it was a children's book because it is a short book, has lots of illustrations, but I think there are a whole lot more people it would connect with. First of all, I mentioned about my time in the Army. We have soldiers stationed in Germany right now, and they may find that life is quite a bit different. They are going to find out that the only people celebrating Halloween are those that come to the American housing area, and most of the German kids who come there have no idea what it's about. Thanksgiving, there's no real celebration of Thanksgiving in Germany at all. You have to do it at home if you're living off base, or hopefully you'll find that they have the best meal in the mess hall I've had in a couple of months. As far as Christmas, it's going to be a different thing. You see a different thing. You can go to town and see the Christmas markets and see some of the things they do. And it would help you if you're if you're a soldier over there seeing that. Also, exchange students. I had a daughter who was an exchange student in Germany. She's also born over there. That's beside the point. This would help an exchange student to get used to something. University exchange student, of course, is not going to be with a family and help to know the local customs. As far as a high school exchange student, this would help this individual to know what to expect and how it's different. And also, I think people who just read in general about these things would find it interesting. I think you could have it at a school, learning about part of your social studies curriculum, and a lot of the things they teach in social studies class. I don't think anyone really cares how many bushels of potatoes are produced in a certain area annually, unless they're in the food business. So I think it could provide to a very wide audience.
So as we wrap up our time here tonight, Albert, if you had some advice that you could give to the aspiring authors who are listening right now, what would that be?
Well, I guess it's make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, because I'd never written a book before and never had to deal with publishers before or anything about the publicity for a book. So it's nice to know what you're getting yourself into, but I guess if you know everything in advance, you really don't have anything new in life. So that's what I look at.
Again, the book is titled Christmas for a Fish Out of Water. It's written by Albert G. Thayer and published by Covenant Books, so find it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Albert, it's been really nice talking with you and learning all about Christmas for a Fish Out of Water. Thanks again.
Well, thank you.
Purpose Beyond the Pain. That's the title of the new book by Desiree R. Howell. And we're going to talk all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Desiree is with me. Desiree, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Corey, for having me.
Desiree, can you tell me what you've written about in Purpose Beyond the Pain?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. It is actually a testimony book. It's a God story. It's true and raw and honest. I laid bare my heart upon the pages of this book in hopes that other people who read it can find hope and healing as I did when I was writing it.
Desiree, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
Well, it's funny you asked me that. I thought this would be for mainly women, being that it's about my life, going up through age 5 and up until present. But I've had several men actually read it and give me great reviews and tell me how much they enjoyed reading the book. So I guess I told God, I said, I guess this book's for everyone. So I'm glad to hear that.
So what inspired this for you, Desiree? What gave you the idea to start writing it?
Well, I've always had it upon my heart to write the book. Of course, I allowed voices, negativity of, I'm not, articulate enough. I can't spell very well. All these voices in my head saying that I shouldn't write the book. And of course, I know where that was coming from. But a lady walked into my place of employment one day and was inquiring about a service. And we were talking about 10 minutes into the conversation. She had mentioned she had just published a book. And I didn't realize I said it out loud under my breath. I said, I've always wanted to write a book. And she asked me what was stopping me. And at that moment, I was almost embarrassed to even give her any of my excuses of why I had not started. And that evening, I came home and wrote my introduction, and it started from there.
So once you did get started with it, was this a long process overall, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
It was a long process on my part in the writing. It was about a 4-year labor of love. I would have to push it away at times. When you're digging up old bones, it gets a little hard to articulate how you want it to be read. But there were some things in the book that I had never spoken out loud or ever shared with anyone until I typed it out on the page. So definitely was a healing process. The actual publication of it was about a year. And that was the editing and the design. And, of course, my publisher was great and let me have, all the say in doing that. So it was a labor of love. It took me about 5 years to get it to where it's at now.
And so once you handed your manuscript off to your publisher, Christian Faith, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process?
I would say probably not as much on my part as it was on theirs. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so the going back and forth, the editing process was probably the most lengthiest. They were gracious enough to let me design my own cover, so that was great. So we kind of tweaked that a little bit. But really, they were just great. They were very patient with me, and I really appreciated that.
I could only imagine what was going through your head whenever you were holding the actual first copy in your hands for the first time, Desiree. What was that like?
Corey, that's all I would say for about a year. I just want to hold it in my hand. I can't wait to just hold it in my hand. So when it came, I was heading to church one Sunday, opened the door, and there was a box at the door. Thought, wow, I haven't ordered anything. Opened it up, and there was my books. And it's beyond words. It's just such an accomplishment, such an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment when you actually get to hold it in your hand.
So now that you are published, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
It's the feedback that I'm getting from my readers, getting to hear how they related to the book, because it goes from, me being a child to a young, troubled teenager to getting married young and then, to an abusive relationship, being a single mom. So there was a lot of different feedback as far as what they could relate to in that book. And also the reviews just have been just heartwarming. So I think that would probably be. And that's the whole purpose, right? You want the reader to be able to relate to the book. And I've heard a lot of people say, I couldn't put it down. I had to turn the page and see what happened next. So that was the most rewarding, I think.
Well, this definitely sounds like a wonderful book. Again, it's titled Purpose Beyond the Pain. It's written by Desiree R. Howell, and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, even traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to pick it up. Desiree, it's been wonderful talking with you tonight. Thank you again for being here with me.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Corey.
The new book by Reverend Dr. Kevin Brown explores the transformative power of Holy Communion. The book is titled Holy Communion, a Spiritual Agent of Harmonious Diversity in Christ. The author, Dr. Brown, is right here with me now, and we get to talk all about it. Kevin, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Can you tell me all about Holy Communion and what you've written about here?
You know, it's interesting. Holy Communion, I first wrote about it in seminary. I was taking a theology course, and I started looking into the origins of Holy Communion and how it affected the diversity of that day and time in the first. And not to my surprise, but I was wondering how we missed it as Christians, how we missed the power that was in Holy Communion. It initially revealed a unity and a connectedness between the first century believers that we have lost over time. I hope the book helped to reestablish the power of that is in us communing together by taking the sacraments.
What sorts of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
You know, it's funny. When I wrote it, it was a dissertation in my last seminary. I was aiming at academics, students of Bible colleges, institutes, seminaries. I was also aiming at people that were going to Bible college, people that were leaders in their church that wanted to dive a little deeper into tools that can help develop diversity between the varying Christian groups.
So is this your first published work then?
It is.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So the whole process from beginning to end, including the publishing, was this a long journey for you then overall?
You know, it's funny. It really wasn't a long journey initially because I had already done all the work. I had actually had the dissertation completed, and it just never occurred to me to take the next step and develop it into an actual book until I was, funny enough, I was in another class, and they wanted us to challenge ourselves to do something we felt that we were challenged to do, something we had never accomplished, something we had never done that was kind of out of our wheelhouse. And so what popped in my head is like, I've never written a book. I've always wanted to do that. And the material was already complete. So all I had to do was go through the publishing process. And that didn't take very long at all.
Yeah, so once you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books, would you say there was anything particularly challenging about that part of things for you?
You know, the only thing I think was challenging for me, they try to set you up so that you don't get your feelings hurt and all this stuff. So you submit your transcript and they say, well, we have turned people down and not everybody is accepted. And it's almost like they're preparing you just in case it doesn't go forward and it doesn't get past their auditors. And so that little weight was a little unnerving because I was thinking, wow, first time I tried to publish a book and I'm not hearing back real quick. But then it came back so positive and so strong. And I was like, oh, wow, that's wonderful. And from that point, it was a pretty smooth process.
And so now it's out there, you're published. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think the most rewarding aspect, I would say, is people who know me and have been with me either in class, seminary, or even if they've been involved with me in some type of ministry, very surprised that I published a book and I was getting phone calls. Did you really do this? Yeah, and they were grabbing the books, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all these, can you autograph my book? And that was a good feeling, People were buying them and giving me to autograph them, and I just felt right special that they honored me like that.
Well, again, this book is titled Holy Communion, a Spiritual Agent of Harmonious Diversity in Christ. This is written by Reverend Dr. Kevin Brown and published by Covenant Books. So get it at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Kevin, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again.
Yeah, I felt like it was my blessing. Oh, they can also get it on Kindle. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The audiobook edition of the book by Teddy J titled Before and After. Well, it just came out. You can find it everywhere like Audible and iTunes and Amazon. And Teddy is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We get to talk all about it. Teddy, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell me about what readers and audiobook listeners will expect whenever they get into Before and After?
They can get into a whole bunch of things, a variety of things. They could get into entertainment above all. And then there's also a little bit of life lessons in there, but each his own. And then also, for the most part, definitely time spent away from all of those people that you hate and love, or love to hate.
Teddy, what sorts of readers do you think would be really into this?
Imaginative, supernatural, of course, and then drama for the most part.
So how did the idea for this come about? What sparked this?
A number of things, but the main thing that started was I'm a very social person, so I spoke to a lot of different people. And a lot of people, of course, are good-hearted people, and they always wonder why they go through bad things, or, they're trying to find life and important answers to that, or whatever the case may be. One day, I decided to actually write a reason as to why I think people go through bad things, or at least one interpretation of why I think people go through bad things. And for the most part, it was just a past life where we did something wrong or whatever, and then now we just going through what we have to go through. This would technically be our crosses to bear.
So have you ever done anything like this before, publishing-wise, or is this all kind of new for you?
Well, this particular genre, this is actually pretty new, but I've written other things. But this one is definitely new and different because it touches all aspects of different cultures in the world and not just solely on one tiny little part of the world. It has situations that contain other religious aspects as well as cultural aspects and also economic aspects as well, of course.
So when you think about the time that it took to write the book and publish the book, was this a long period overall for you?
Actually, no. I actually finished it much faster than I thought. I guess I had a lot of fun doing it because it probably only took me about maybe not even a couple months to write it.
And of course, we're talking about the audiobook edition. So what was that like? You've been reading your book on the page all that time, and now you're hearing your book being read back to you. Teddy, what's that like?
Oh, man, it is phenomenal. It's a little bit frustrating to go through it, the different things where you have your setbacks and then you have your incongruities or whatever. But then once you just have everything come together all in the end and then realize, oh, wow, I accomplished this, it's just an amazing feeling. One of the best feelings in the world to know that a big part of me is actually available to the world. And I honestly never thought I would be able to, quote unquote, exploit myself in this manner. So it actually is a very exhilarating experience.
And your work is out there. When you think about that, Teddy, what's the most rewarding aspect of this all for you?
The most rewarding aspect would just be writing in all itself. I never thought, just expressing my ideas would be so fulfilling. I just do it naturally, So the best reward would be just having the freedom and opportunity to write.
So looking ahead, do you see yourself writing maybe a follow-up to Before and After or doing some other sort of writing?
Oh, I planned on it because reading throughout the book, I intentionally left certain things out because part 2 would definitely be coming behind it. If not sooner, then definitely later. I've actually already started part 2, so people will have things to look forward to.
Well, again, this book is titled Before and After. It's written by Teddy J, and this is published by the Audiobook Network. So, like I said before, find it at Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Teddy, thank you again for coming on the show. It was really great talking with you.
Oh, this has been amazing, the whole experience. Thank you so very much.
I'm looking at a book that's an inspiring journey of faith, healing, and personal transformation. It's written by Bonnie Lee Taylor, and it's titled My Rose. Bonnie is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to be talking all about it. Bonnie, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Bonnie, can you tell me what readers can expect when they open up My Rose?
A lot. They can expect to learn how to overcome an obstacle, learn how to embrace faith, learn how to accomplish the one thing they never thought they could accomplish. It could be any obstacle. It's a faith journey and learn things that they didn't even know that they needed. There were so many things that I didn't even know that I needed until I started seeking the Lord and asking for advice and finding out that there were many obstacles I didn't even know that I had. And then He taught me how to overcome them. So it was awesome.
Bonnie, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with the most?
I think that this will connect with anybody that is in a place where they just don't believe that there's a way out. For me, it was weight loss, and I just didn't see that there was a way that I could lose weight, and I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was involved. And usually in our lifetime, we have an obstacle that we can't seem to overcome. And so that is the best way to go about it, is to bring it out in the open and find out what the truth is, why we can't seem to overcome. And so once you bring and shine the light on it and say, okay, is this just something that's not going to happen for me? Or is there a way? And any reader that wants to get to the bottom of why they can't figure out the obstacle that they're trying to overcome, it'll be great for them.
So what was that spark? What was your inspiration to start writing the book?
Well, it actually was really neat how it started. My husband bought me a gift, which is the picture that is on the cover. It's the everlasting rose, and he bought me this gift. And I had been pondering the question in my personal prayer time and been saying, is weight loss just something that, do I need to just let go of that? That was the one thing I wanted before I die one day, was to be able to master emotional eating and sugar addiction. I thought, maybe this just isn't going to happen for me. And so my husband bought me this gift, and the very next day, as I was walking to my bedroom, the title, My Rose, came to me, and I felt like the Lord was showing me that it's the title of your new book. And I went, oh, so here I had this beautiful gift that he had given me the night before, and now I had a title. And I thought, all right, where are we going with this? So I just sat down and started pondering, and that was the beginning where it all started.
What does your writing background look like? Are you experienced in this?
Yes, I have. The first book I wrote was The Year She Stopped to Pray, and that was a personal journey that I took with 9 deaths and 9 months of my family and friends. And I went through being healed from being kidnapped as a child and abused, and that was in the first book. And I'm also working on a couple of new books. I'm working on one called The 12 Fasts of Christmas, and it's about a 3-day fast each month of the year, and also a 365-day devotional. It's all about the lessons through the years.
So once you got started on My Rose, was this a long process overall for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes, it took 3 years. It took 3 years. It didn't seem like it, but it seemed to go much quicker than that. But when I looked at the actual dates, I was like, wow, it took a full 3 years.
And there's nothing like seeing that finished product, especially after all that time and work you put into it. So once you were holding the first copy in your hands, Bonnie, what was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. I was so excited. It was very humbling to realize all that went in it. When I looked at it, and there was 14 chapters, and there's an interlude, and then there's 14 more chapters, and each one of them has obstacles and lessons and things that I didn't know that I needed and all. And I looked at it and I thought, this was some incredible time spent that I really felt like I spent in prayer, and that God showed me, my next steps and what I needed to do and how to overcome. And I was like, there was an awful lot of care and love put into this. And I was really excited because I thought, there's going to be people out there maybe that are going through the same thing. And this is going to be really neat for them because it's going to help them as much as it helped me.
This book is titled My Rose. It's written by Bonnie Lee Taylor and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So pick it up at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Bonnie, thank you again for coming on the show and telling me all about My Rose. It was great to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed
it. There's a gripping true story written in the new book by Darrell Bacon. The book is titled Howell and Listen. And we're going to talk about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. The author, Darrell, is with me. Darrell, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Darrell, can you tell me all about what you've written in Howell and Listen?
Well, I'll go ahead and kind of summarize the book itself. It is a true story. It did happen to me. It is about a situation where I, being in the insurance business, created an agency. I started off small. It got extremely large to about 700 agents. And this was in the around 2005 and 6. What happened was, as soon as the administration signed the Affordable Care Act, it systematically destroyed the agency. And as soon as the agency was taken out, and it was a health insurance agency, it wasn't life insurance or property and casualty, anything like that. It was health insurance. And with that, as soon as he signed that document, as you know, all the insurance agencies packed up. All the insurance companies, the carriers, they packed up. When that happened, there's no salesman left to market the products. When there's no salesman left, there's no agency. When there's no agency, there's no income. And when there's no income, everything, your lifestyle is gone. And when the lifestyle is gone, my family had a lot of tension. That created some bad scenarios to the point where I started questioning everything. And the last thing that I had left was my faith. And I started questioning that. So I actually went out into the yard and yelled up to heaven that I was a little tired of the fact that the Lord stood around and watched everything happen to me. Everything that I had built up for so many years was now gone. And if he was going to stand around and, in my eyes, with his hands in his pockets, I was going to ask him, do me a favor, step aside, quit keeping me from who I need to talk to, and you know who that is, that one down there, bring him up and let me have a face-to-face. You know, when you have free will, sometimes you get what you ask for. So I made a few statements like, you've taken away my family, my income, my agency, my reputation. All my friends have scattered now. My family's now broken up. If you're going to expect me now to turn to you, Satan or Lucifer or evil one, whatever you want to be labeled, if you expect me to do that, you're going to have to think again, because as far as I'm concerned, you can cut my legs off. And I used a cuss word in there. I'm not going to do it. But you can cut my legs off, and I'll crawl around on the ground without them. Do you hear me? And I stood there in a fighting stance out in the yard. And I said, I didn't think you would do it. I'm tired of you putting your cigarette out on me. You're too cowardly to stand before me. So I'll say it again. You can cut my legs off. I'll crawl around on the ground without them. 10 days later, I began going paralyzed from the waist down. When that happened, I had to struggle with denial in my mind. Insurance man, bending over in the trunk, pulling out heavy cartons of material or my golf clubs or whatever. I thought maybe I pinched a nerve. But after I'd gone to doctor after doctor and chiropractor and so forth, they said, no, that's not it. There's something else. You have to go and get an MRI. And when I did, the MRI came back was horrific looking. It literally looked like the head of that creature in Alien, the original Alien, and it had eaten through my T7 vertebrae and had its mouth around my spinal cord. It had a horn that wrapped around my right lung and another horn that wrapped around my heart, and I had 45 days to live. So I am telling everyone, this is how I got it, and how I got rid of it, how I survived is another part of the story where divine intervention had to come in and save me. So I'm warning everyone out there, this book is just that. It is a warning that you've got to be very careful what you say.
Well, again, this book is titled Howl and Listen. It's written by Darrell Bacon, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Darrell, what an amazing story this is. Thanks again for coming on the show.
And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Author Evan Timko has written a thrilling new book titled The Soviet. And that's what we're talking about right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Evan is here with me. Evan, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Evan, can you tell me what you've written about in The Soviet?
Well, yes, it's a thriller suspense, a little dark, like fiction. So it kind of delves with some like darker themes of stuff of life. It goes into a man who's like losing himself in a bathroom after a long life, not knowing anything other than what he was taught. He kind of delves back into his past, and he comes back from his memories of his past, and he just kind of tries to find the purpose in his life, and he tries to find like this peace in the chaos that he lives.
So would you say fans of suspense and dark fiction are what you were looking for here?
Yep.
So how'd this come about, Evan? Where'd you get the idea to write it?
It was in my freshman year of college. It was very stressful, and it just turned into kind of like one weekend of kind of like partying and stuff. And then all of a sudden, after the weekend, it kind of was there on my laptop, and then I read it again, and I really liked it. And then I kind of just went with it, and then it became The Soviet.
So have you ever done anything like this before when it comes to writing and publishing, or is this all kind of new for you?
No, so this is my first time. So I'm just embracing it, enjoying all the new knowledge and the whole bunch of the community that's around me and the lovely people that come with it.
Well, that's fantastic. Being your first one, was this a long journey for you overall, the writing of it and the publishing and everything?
I think the writing wasn't the big journey. It was the overcoming the fear of like, oh, if I put my knowledge or my book out there, will people just hate it? And I think I just came to terms like, there's always going to be somebody that despises or hates what you write. It's not really there for them. It's there for the ones who find it and find some like, just kind of like connection with it that helps them with their life maybe. That's really what I wanted.
So once you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing end of things for you?
The editing. I was very stern and kind of stubborn at times, but they helped. They were very patient with me.
I can only imagine what was going through your head whenever it was finally a real thing, that first copy was in your hands, Evan. What was that moment like for you?
It was kind of like ecstasy in a sense, but it was like relaxing afterwards. It was like my heart went up and then my soul just dropped and it just like settled like a calm river, just like peaceful, just hearing like some frogs, some like crickets chirping, and it was really nice and relaxing.
So now you're officially a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Just knowing it's out there and that I didn't cave into my mind. I didn't cave into some people around me telling me, oh, you shouldn't do it. Just putting it out there made me be more bold in some other aspects of my life, like knowing that like sometimes like you just have to put yourself out there, whether good thing or bad thing happens, you at least try. And I'm really happy because I feel like I've grown as a person.
And something that so many of us authors deal with is writer's block. It can be frustrating. Evan, did you have to deal with that kind of thing?
I think it wasn't writer's block because I wrote differently. So like I went away from this for 2 years when I finished college, and I got back into it afterwards and finished it. And I noticed when I was writing it that I was trying to format it so much to go along, and I was like, can't do that. And I just wrote different chapters. Sometimes I wrote the final chapter before I wrote the fifth chapter. And I just kind of filled in spaces here and there and rearranged it. So I think it wasn't the challenge of writer's block. It was the challenge of figuring out where I wanted the certain chapters or certain like paragraphs to go.
So it sounds like you were working off of an outline of sorts instead of just like writing on the fly.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, do you see yourself writing a follow-up to this maybe, or something else?
I do have a few ideas in my mind, just kind of writing down like what I was doing with the previous one, kind of like outlining them a little bit. That way I don't just jump in, hit writer's block, and have nothing else to do after that. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of our listeners right now are authors who are also starting out in all of this. So do you maybe have some advice that you could throw out there?
I think if I think back to what J.R. Tolkien said one time, like not all those who wander are lost. So, like if you feel like you're just wandering and not able to figure anything out, like with your book, it's not really the aspect that you have nothing or no path in front of you. It's just that you haven't like opened that door yet to see what the greater beyond is.
Well, if you're into suspense, if you're into dark fiction, you're definitely going to be into this book. It's titled The Soviet. It's written by Evan Timko and published by Covenant Books. So find it at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and also traditional brick and mortar stores. Well, Evan, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for being here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Author Wendy R. Anderson has written a memoir that reveals how her faith helped to carry her through life's challenges. The title of the book is I Am That I Am. And Wendy is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. That's what we'll be talking about. Wendy, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
Wendy, can you tell me what you've written about in I Am That I Am?
Yes, it's about my personal walk with God, going through the challenges, everything that happened to me, and what he took me through and what he was bringing me out of. But I'm still in my wilderness.
Wendy, what kinds of readers do you think that this would connect with the most?
I would say everyone, because it's getting to know I am that I am on a personal level, knowing that he still is God and he still is with us. But at the same time, he wants us to acknowledge him and follow his commandments and do the will that he has for us.
So, Wendy, I'm curious, how did you get the idea to write this?
The voice from God gave me the insights of what to write and how to write it. I got a voice from the Lord.
And is this your first published work, or have you done this kind of thing before?
This is my first published work, yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
So being your first one, was this a long process overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Yes, it was, because it took me several years because of the things that I was going through for the body of Christ, the trials and the tribulations. A lot of times I had to stop. A lot of times I had to do other things because I have a special needs child, so I had to attend to him. So I just couldn't write it in 1 year. Everything was just piece by piece by piece.
So once you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books, Wendy, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process?
The manuscript coming back and forth, coming back and forth. Yeah, I would say that. It took a lot in me and out of me to really, really just go at it and just keep on making corrections and things of that nature.
And then finally that day came and your first copy came in of I Am That I Am, Wendy. What was that moment like when you were holding it in your hands the first time?
Oh, I was so joyful that God completed it through me. I was just joyful. I could believe it, but then I was just too excited to believe it.
And so now you're a published author. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
For me, it would be the second thing that I have accomplished in my life. The first thing was reading the King James Version Holy Bible. I completed that. And the second thing would be my book. And it was very rewarding because it taught me so much. The Word of God taught me so much. It taught me so much, and it guided me through life challenges and the things that I had to go through and the things I had to face on and understand what was going on. And then a lot of times I didn't understand what was going on. So, you know, it brought a lot out of me. The things that were hidden inside of me, it brought out of me. So it really helped me out a lot.
Oh, Wendy, we have a lot of first-time authors listening to us. They're just starting out. So do you have maybe some advice that you could offer to them?
Yeah, just follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Tell your story. You just have to tap into what God is saying to you to pursue it, because he won't disappoint you at no form of fashion. So just stick to it. I guarantee you will come out on top.
That's good advice. Well, I think this is going to be a blessing for so many readers. Again, the book is titled I Am That I Am. It's written by Wendy R. Anderson and published by Covenant Books. So find it pretty much everywhere, places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble and iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Wendy, it's been wonderful speaking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Same to you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.